Hi, welcome back to the Full Advisor Coaching Podcast with your host, Kristin Harrod. Kristin, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Bill. I'm excited for this one today. This is getting into work that I used to do a lot in my corporate career that is exciting when I have the chance to do it with advisors now.
Yeah, well, it's great because, you have been doing a whole series on business development, talking about, all the things that you can do to drive growth in a firm.
Mm-hmm.
But today's I like because it's like, okay, now I've got a new client. What do I do? There's 90 days here. There could be missed opportunities. There could be things that make this relationship just wonderful. And so just walk us through, like, what do you do when you've got that new client and how do you bring them on board and make them feel like they found the right place?
Yes. So client onboarding, an essential growth strategy. I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about the first essentially 90 days of the relationship. And the big thing I see is that the onboarding is often sort of set up as an administrative task in the firm. Like, okay, we got to fill out the paperwork. Someone has to get their accounts moved and get things set up in the system. Meanwhile, it's really this huge, rather than being back office, it's a huge place where we can solidify the client experience with trust, mitigate their anxiety, and ultimately help them talk about your business and share it before you even have worked with them for a full year. So what I want to talk about all these different elements and what that really looks like, what a really good 90-day system looks like. And I'll talk through some of those examples. So, just imagine you've worked so hard. We've talked about it multiple times, like that whole lead to client conversion process, and how you're reaching out and you're working and you're like, okay, this person's trying to figure out, especially if they've never worked with an advisor before, or if they've been working with one who's been neglecting them. Just if you think about being in their shoes, this is a huge decision for them. They are saying, I'm going to choose you over all of the other advisors or technology options, or doing it myself, just keeping things as they are. They're choosing you. So they've made this big decision. That's excitement, right? They can get it off their plate. They can get help, but it's also, they're nervous. They're anxious. Did I make the right choice? Is it going to work? So what I really encourage everyone to do is to remember the client and what they feel in this time, because too many firms just kind of quietly go dark for a bit until that first client meeting, right? They're doing the paperwork and clients can go without hearing anything, or they don't know where's their money at a different time. They've signed some things and what's happening. And if you're not proactive in reaching out, this silence can make a client feel doubt in your ability and get nervous, right?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think in my mind, I am sitting here thinking, I know what it's like to be a new client.
Yeah.
And it's weird if I don't hear from them, if I'm not engaged with that new financial advisor, it does make me wonder what's going on and where are things. And that's all totally avoidable. That guy,
I know. This is your chance.
I'm the kind of guy that will reach out and go, what's going on? But
Yeah, me too. But this is the launch of a new relationship, and you can take something that is, scary or nerve-wracking or even exciting for someone and really flip it around to be like, wow, we've kicked this thing off. And I think that's one of the absolute most important things you can do. And if you remember, when I had that, I was speaking way back when I think it was episode, 35 maybe, with Wealth Tender with Brian Thorpe and Diana Cabrisi. And they made a really important point on the podcast that I think was fascinating, that they have found that in the first 90 days, someone is most likely to give you a positive review and even send a referral your way, which is just amazing because most advisors wait or are hesitant. So not only is this like important for launching a great relationship with the client and building trust? And perhaps they will then deepen the engagement with you by moving more assets or adding on more services. But it's a very clear opportunity for you to differentiate and stand out in a time where someone is having a very emotionally vivid experience where they're really connecting with something that's incredible. So they're going to be excited about it, and they're going to talk to their friends about it. Mm-hmm. So importantly, they're not saying, "Oh my God, it was great, and already I've earned 10%." They're not talking about that. That's not what it's about. And we've seen that from research across the industry.
Well, in fact, you just recently, I think you were at a conference recently where they were talking about that is not where the value is initially found.
No,
right?
It's absolutely in proactive outreach, in communication. That was we had someone from Vanguard sharing a few different studies. One was CEG, and there was a McKinsey report and a Cerulean Point, all the big names of people who do research. Everyone was consistent that it's about outreach, communication, feel confident versus how did my portfolio do? And so proactive outreach and designing this is really the opportunity for an advisor. And so this is one of my favorite areas to work on, because back in my corporate days, prior to starting my RIA, prior to getting into consulting and coaching, I was like director of client experience for programs, and I would help with designing what does that look like? What are the communications? How do you get someone excited about the product? How do you get someone to activate, say, a credit card? How do you get someone to activate a line of credit and use it and realize the benefits of it? And what do you do to retain someone? So this is kind of near and dear to me. So when I have the opportunity to work on it, it's super fulfilling. And I do have the example I'm going to talk through today is a bit of a case study of someone I've worked with in the past. So I won't get into specifics around the firm, but I will talk about what are the types of things we looked at and what did we create? What are the assets we created that the firm can then use in this 90-day? Because I really do think that this can be replicated across multiple firms. So I think the most important first thing is to create a visual client journey. Now, we've talked about this for the prospect process, about letting people understand how this works, but this is a one-page visual that's going to show you exactly what's going to happen step by step from the minute they sign their paperwork that says, yes, I'm going to engage you, until they're fully onboarded, which is roughly 90, 100 days, right?
Yep.
So work with a designer, make it look really nice. It's a PDF, it's a printout, it's something you share either online or in person if you meet in person. And it takes you through the steps. You sign the paperwork. We set up your accounts at the custodian, your money transfers. We invest according to your plan. We meet to review your dashboard. We show you how to do different things. You number each step. It's very clear. And you literally hand it to them or digitally hand it to them when they come on board that day, just because it's going to eliminate a majority of that anxiety, right? They can look down and go, oh, okay, I see what's going to happen. So things don't just magically turn on. I see it takes a little time. And so you built that trust immediately. Hey there, it's Kristin. Quick break. If you're enjoying the show and you want more, head on over to fulladvisorcoaching.com/resources. You can download the toolkits that I have there and join the free insider community. You'll be the first to hear about new trainings, fresh podcast episodes, and I share with you real-world strategies that I see working for advisors right now. That's fulladvisorcoaching.com/resources. Go sign up. It's completely free. And now, back to the show.
Well, it seems to me that two things happen when you're doing that. One is that you are establishing communications right away, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, you're setting out expectations for your client of you. So that, they're like, okay, this is what they're promising to do for me. Okay, I see this.
Yes. And importantly, it makes them understand that it's more complicated potentially than they thought it might have been, and that you're really bringing value. And secondly, you're setting expectation for them of like, hey, we're going to need you to engage and learn along the way too, because you got to build the habits with them as well.
Yes.
Because that can be frustrating when you're an advisor and you're waiting to get, documents signed or things uploaded or I have this other account I forgot to mention, things like that. So, So the first part is this visual summary. So then you're like, okay, great. And then it's designing and figuring out the proactive communications about what's happening with their money, right? So they're, clients transferring their life savings or a large sum of money. They want to know it's arrived where it needs to go in the way it should. So with this firm, we designed weekly progress updates during this transfer period. Because if it's coming from different accounts, it can also take different amounts of time.
Oh, yeah.
So we put together a template for a very simple email that was like, here's where things stand. Your accounts have been set up, and we're waiting for the 401k transfer. Here's what happens next. So template, they don't have to write custom email every time. It's, plugging in, and we had them set up for each stage of the process. Very professional, short, succinct, and that way, if there's things that come up like tax implications from a transfer, or they need to have a separate meeting to talk about, okay, this money is not qualified and there's might be a tax issue if we're selling something and reinvesting, you have the ability to set that expectation ahead of time. You're not really surprising them. You're saying, okay, we're going to have a call then set up at this point and we'll talk through what might happen here. So you're not letting surprises happen and be like, oh, by the way, yes. Oh, you owe tax on that. We forgot to mention, which you would think wouldn't happen. But I've heard enough stories that you're like, okay, let's be proactive on that and really mitigate the risk there.
Man, yes. This is great because if you're communicating proactively, you've got a set of expectations, both of you and of them. Is terrific because I think by the process, you're creating or you're declaring an intention. So this is an intentional relationship and you've got somewhere you want to go with it.
Right. Exactly. And I also think that it's intentional, and it also is a relationship with not just you, the advisor, but with the whole team.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't want this client getting a call or an email from someone at the firm that they don't know. Right. And this is interesting because I work with my advisor.
It's not that interesting because I know people have gotten those phone calls and they're like, who?
No, and it surprises me too, and it's one of those things like it's probably not a big deal, as in if you were thinking about brand impact, it's probably not negative. It's probably neutral. But what if we could make it positive, right?
Exactly.
So, it's like you get someone say, oh, hello, we're processing a transaction for you. Please sign this waiver that lets us do it. And I just recently had that from my advisor, and it was from someone I had not met. And they're a larger firm, and it was a team member. And I did look twice to go, all right, I have to sign something. It says she's from that firm. Mm-hmm. I've never heard of her. Is this phishing or is it real?
Right.
So you don't want to open that door, right?
No.
I reached out and said, hey, I just want to confirm this is someone
she is in fact associated with you, and this is no.
Right. So I had to do a little more work than I wanted to. You don't want to get into that, right? So here's your chance right in the beginning. Introduce every person the client will interact with. Who are they? What do they do? How do they reach them? And that way, you don't have to wait until the client has a question or they get this random email that comes out. You've at least familiarized them with that. It's so interesting because I think it was this client, it might have been a different client, where they sit down and they'll do the onboarding if the onboarding is online, or even in person, they step through the website, because you're not going to pull every person into the room for every client meeting, right?
No.
But they step through the website and go, okay, here's Linda. She, if you have any questions, she's your first person, to talk to. Here's, Naomi. She's going to handle setting you up with the custodian, and you'll be getting notices from her. And then you work through the team, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it can be, even if, and a lot of times this came up here because the founder's name was on the door, right? Like, so it was named after the founder, but he's not working with individuals anymore, but people are often, they knew him and they were drawn to the firm because of that. So another great way just to, solidify the trust is to, if you have someone in the office, coming into the office, have the founder walk by and say, hey, happy to, welcome. We're glad you're here. They don't have to be involved in the meeting. They don't have to know anything about them, but they're saying, hello, happy you're here. It's a small gesture and a huge impact.
Big impact. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I really loved, because I used to say, okay, send out a team picture or send out something so that people knew who was on the team, but I didn't, I hadn't seen the specific introduce each team member through the website. And I really liked how this team brought that to me, and they're like, hey, this is what we do. And I was like, oh, let's definitely, formalize that and make sure it's happening every time, because that's really, really valuable.
No, it's fantastic, because if in fact people are going to be talking with clients, people should know who they are. I mean, it sounds commonsensical as all get out, but it's
right. But you know how we talked about that firm where I do FCMO work for them, and we did those videos, right? Where every team member has a video, and it's like they talk about their role, and then they talk about some fun things about them. And, that's something that we've worked into the lead nurture process, and we've worked into on the front end. But what a great time to say, hey, as a follow-up in this, okay, we've introduced you to the team, thought you might enjoy, here are the videos for each of the people on your team. And they can go in and look. I mean, what a great, again, you can, Bill, this gets back to repurposing assets you've already created. So you create them thinking, oh, this will help people be interested in our firm and be excited. But now you can also send them out as, here, meet your team, meet your team members. Oh, it's exciting stuff. I love this.
You can edit those down so that they're shorter and quicker. But, again, it goes down to the fact, it's just a true experience. A friend of mine, his wife got a phone call from somebody at their financial advisor. She didn't know who they were.
Yeah. No clue. Right.
And it was, it's an opportunity where it's not just value. Here's an opportunity to create a positive experience, so that people are like, "Oh, okay, sure, I've heard of Bill. Of course, Bill called me. This is great," because it just cements the nature of that relationship, and
it's deeper too, because it's also like, I as a client, am not relying on one single person, and my money is not in the hands of a single individual. Like it is backed by a team, and the team knows me, and I know who they are. And I think that this is one of the biggest trust building factors that you can 100%. Set up for your team. I can't say that enough. So, but then on another side of things is teach them how to use the tools you want to use, right? We are all using different kinds of technology now. I know advisors have portals, and they might have some people interacting with financial planning software and uploading various things. So they're not that intuitive, a lot of these platforms, as much as they try. Everyone has varying degrees of comfort with technology. So, a big problem, you may not be aware of this, like clients set up portals where they can share like quarterly statements and various things over the year. But if no one ever shows you how to log in or where to find it, and then reminds you to use it, you're not going to. To this day, if my advisor says to me, oh, it's in your portal, I have to go, tell me again.
How do I get
Where's
there?
that? What do I do? Yeah. And they often change the portal, and then you have to fix. So again, we put in a peer, there's a dedicated meeting in that 90-day summary, that visual.
Yeah.
When you step there, be like, oh, now on this, we're going to set up your technology review meeting. And they take them through and say, here's the platform. Here's how you log in. Here's where you find your accounts. Here's how, maybe if they have your plan set up, or you put in some sort of retirement projections or various things that, scenarios. Here's where you look at that. Here's what you do where you can upload documents.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. And if you've already done some work on their plan, like sometimes people do some initial income modeling or various planning before they become a client, you can take them in and show them, hey, here's your plan. Oh, and now you'll see this is where this account ties to this, or this comes in over here, and you can really start to bring it to life for someone.
Yeah, and I will tell you, just as a client, it makes me realize my money hasn't gone far, far away, and I don't know where it is.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. No, it's a big difference. It makes a big difference. Again, especially with all this, the cybersecurity issues. I went to this conference last week, a whole thing on cybersecurity and problems and concerns, and really just how sophisticated phishing can be now. And I bring that up twice now, but they're very, very
it's very
astute
real
and secretive,
and they get better.
It's like 85% of the cybersecurity, I think they said, and don't quote me on that exact number, but it was a very high number that's where 85% is tied to phishing, just emails going out that look so real. And
they've gotten so much better. And I mean, they really have gotten so much better. And if you've got a relationship that you intentionally, carefully designed with a client, and they know where their money is and they know who the team is, you also, as a byproduct, are creating a more secure environment for them to actually have a relationship with you in.
Right, exactly. So I think as you're walking through, you're working with the client and they see on that visual what's happening. They see, okay, we're going to have the meet your team, and then we have the client dashboard. And, that they see you moving through this process. They understand how they shift into becoming, I'm a client, like I am a valued client of your firm.
Yes.
Right. So they can feel settled. And it's really good when you've completed this session, this 90 days or 100 days, whatever the amount is, that you kind of have that formal welcome moment when you're like, great, we have, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we have completed the onboarding. Everything is set up. Now is where you can easily get into what is the client experience across the full year. And so like you're setting it up to again, remove any kind of question mark of now what?
Yeah.
Right. So you're saying, okay, we're having everything set up. We're ready to go. Now we'll move ahead with X, Y, or Z. And again, this is the time, and we learned this from Brian and Diana back in that episode, where you can very easily let them know, we're so glad you're here. We are open for business. If you know anyone who might benefit from the kind of experience you've just been able to go through, we'd love an introduction and we're happy to help. That's a natural way to fit that in. And then this is where Diana and Brian were saying it's a great time to email them a link to do a review for you. And what we know from Wealth Tender is just that people are most likely to give a review in that 90 days. And as Brian very astutely pointed out, which I find fascinating, was you can frame it as a pay it forward. It's not about someone giving a review for you, the advisor. It's about them paying it forward to the next person, because most people look to an online review first.
Yeah.
You can frame it as, a follow-up email, just build it in your queue. Your experience could help someone who's looking for an advisor. It'll help them decide if, we may be a good fit for them. If you would, take a minute and give a review, that would be helpful for them. Easy. And they get extreme compliance on that because so many people are excited. They're in this excited period that I think it's Diana who said, it's like when you go to a good restaurant and you've just come from the restaurant and you're very excited about telling someone about that restaurant because it was so good and so fresh in your mind, like you just had that experience. So this is where we can capitalize on it in a good way to say, hey, we're going to officially welcome you, let you know what's coming ahead, and cue up the fact that you're here to help them, to help their family, to help their friends, and to help others out in the community. Because people want to help other people, right? It's not about helping you necessarily, the advisor. Yeah. So what do you have to do internally to make this system work? That's a big
That was my question.
Yeah,
you've just gone through this whole beautiful process.
I know it's beautiful.
But you got to make it systemic.
Yeah, so
it's got to be.
Yeah, let's look behind the curtain, right? So, and this is why the firm came to me. They're like, we need to systematize this. We do some good things, but not always the same order and not always all of the parts. So that's why we made it a system that we designed. And essentially, we broke it down. I just said, then what happens? Then what happens? Then what happens? Very specifically. So we designed these workflows and we did it by way of a checklist, right? So there were a few different checklists. There was a checklist for the ops team, the operations team. There was a checklist for the marketing team because they were big enough that they had a marketing person. And then a checklist for the advisors. And these all kind of can be set up as checklists or workflows, however you manage your internal process. So we want to make sure, like, an advisor technically shouldn't be like, now let me chase down where that paperwork is, or, let me figure out what to write in the email. So that's why we broke it down in this case, because there are different people in different roles. So an advisor is going to think about the client facing touch points. When are the meetings? When are we sending a welcome kit? What's the referral conversation? But an ops person is going to look at the back office stuff, setting up the accounts, get the documents, processing paperwork, doing the transfers, and then, if you have someone who's marketing who can help you, coordinating, setting things up, that's always helpful too. So break it down into the steps, into these checklists of like each one for each person.
So
and then
that every client that comes on, everybody on the team knows exactly what their responsibilities are without fail. Boom. These are what we have to do.
Exactly. And then huge efficiency is to templatize the communication. So you have every email, like as we're going through, I'm like, then what happens? Okay, what do you need someone to know? Then what happens? Who needs to know? How do we let that know? So it's like, okay, is there there's a confirmation after we sign the contract. Money is transferred. Send an update. Your money is transferred from this to this. A welcome email when everything's set up. A follow-up after we have the dashboard meeting where they say, here's how you revisit your login or access these videos. And so when you can build out these templates and have them in a library tied to each of the steps. And in this case, we had a checklist with each step and responsibility, and then a link to each of the communications you would use along the way, which was really useful because then you just, okay, I got to send this. Okay, I have to send this. So that's something that's really important. And then, as we know, no system is designed perfectly out of the gate. So, I think once a quarter, when you're first getting started with this, you want to sit down with the whole team and just say, okay, how is the experience going? Where are clients getting confused? Is there something we missed? Is there something that's not quite ironed out? Are we dropping the ball somewhere? Where is it that things get muddled? And I think, I'm going to probably mess this up, but I just listened to this fascinating podcast. I've talked about listening to Cal Newport before.
Yes.
And he was talking about this concept of a bottleneck and just how, like, any good process is only as good as the slowest part of it, like the bottleneck in there. So he was referencing an old story about building chicken coops and how you could, if you aren't efficient in building your chicken coops. And he was talking to an author. And so I will do the link so that everyone gets the appropriate accreditation for their stories and knowledge. And talking about how like each step of the process as you go could be, you moving along. But if you're like, you get stuck on one section, it doesn't matter how much work you put in to improve the front part, it's still backing up in that third part. So it'd be like, oh, we can't get the roof on the chicken coop because it was, it's too slow then. And these are hustling up along the front and then we can't get it together to get it out the door. So fascinating concept. It's just like stopping and looking and saying, let me break this down. And he talked about it related to knowledge work or service work and things like that, where it's like, where are people getting confused that you might have glossed over and been like, oh, I didn't even realize. Like, I bet my advisor didn't even realize that, oh, I might have a second trust issue on someone I'd never heard from. It's like, of course, I'm going to tell them because I'll be like, hey, look, just as a client and experience, which is kind of annoying for them, but hopefully helpful and they'll take it, But again, this is a living process. Things change, technology changes, customers change, all of these things change, and you just have to make sure you're staying up to date on what you're doing. So having these check-ins to be like, is there anything we need to change? Is there a template that needs updating? Did something happen differently? Very important.
Yeah, really, really important because, nothing's ever perfect as you pointed out. These are all, live living documents with real live clients. So the better and the smoother you can make this process and refine the process as you go along, it only benefits the firm. It really only benefits the firm.
Absolutely. And it helps, again, it's as you're setting this 90-day process and the client's feeling supported and informed and they're cared for right away out of the gate. I mean, they're going to be a client for life, right? They're just going to be like, wow, this is great. Because you're going to carry this concept through to the year one and then doing the same kind of thing for year two and beyond. And I know how much the advisors out there really enjoy the client relationship work. It's just this first transition period where I do feel a lot of people could formalize it and turn up the dial and take advantage of the opportunity to make it a very positive brand experience and something that will help versus just, hey, sign here. You'll hear from us soon when something happens. So, I encourage everyone to be like embracing this growth strategy because one, it's already an area where you're excited because the client wants to be there with you. And so you have a huge opportunity because they're ready and willing. And so you can just step in and guide them and really help not only them, but also your firm in its growth strategy. So super, super exciting work. And one that I think everyone listening can take a minute, take a day or two and sit down and map out what does their 90 days look like and where can they make improvements?
Absolutely. And if you are one of the people listening to this podcast and you are thinking, I would like my onboarding process to be a little bit better than just sign all these documents and we'll be in touch. You can reach out and be in touch with Kristin. Kristin, how would they do that?
Well, the best way is to go to fulladvisorcoaching.com, click that button in the upper right-hand corner that says request a call, and we'll schedule time or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Message me there. I'm often out on LinkedIn. This is a conversation I absolutely love doing, and I don't get enough of them because so many people are so worried about how do we attract more of the right people and what kind of acquisition efforts should we be doing? And should I be running ads or am I supposed to connect on LinkedIn? And what am I supposed to, should I be on Instagram? When it's, in fact, this is another one of those areas, much like the prospect experience, where if you follow up, you can make a difference. You take this first 90 days, you can make a huge difference in your ability to attract in new business simply by word of mouth from those clients and by creating satisfaction and delight with the people who have already chosen to work with you.
Yeah, and at the risk of using a cliche, but I'm going to anyway, all right? This is the classic bird in hand versus two in the bush. If you've got that bird in hand, treat it well.
Yeah, exactly.
Treat it nice. It's going to help you. It's only going to benefit you.
Yeah,
and you don't have to be worrying about who else can I get. That'll take care of itself.
I love that. Love it.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're not a subscriber, become one. Because the beauty of that is when Kristin drops a new episode, you'll get it in your inbox and you'll know, and you can give that one a listen as well. I'll get my mouth fixed and I'll get my grammar straightened out by the next time we do this. But do reach out to Kristin, give her a call. I think it's only going to benefit your business. It's certainly going to be an entertaining and an easy conversation to have. So until next time, I'm Bill Tucker on behalf of Kristin and everybody behind Full Advisor Coaching, here to remind you that you can go out today and make today a great day or not. The choice is yours. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Full Advisor Coaching, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the follow button so you'll never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can become a part of the Full Advisor community, visit fulladvisorcoaching.com. Remember, stay connected and get notified as soon as brand new episodes release. Click the follow button now. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kristin Harrod or Full Advisor Coaching.